Chapter 9, Mishnah 1. This chapter deals with the laws of the Meiser of animals. It is placed in Maseches Bechoros because both the Bechor and the animal that is Meiser are offered in the same way. See Tosfos Yom Tov. The Torah commands any Meiser of cattle or of the flock, any that pass under the staff, the 10th one shall be holy to Hashem. Vayikra chapter 27, verse 32. That is, every year the newborn calves or sheep or goats are gathered into a pen and allowed to exit one by one. As every 10th one exits, it is designated as Meiser for the 9 that came before it. See below Mishnah 7. The animals designated as Meiser are then brought to the Beis HaMikdash and offered as korbanos, and their meat is eaten in Jerusalem by the owner and any Tahor person. If the Meiser animal is blemished, so that it cannot be offered as a korban, it may be eaten as regular meat elsewhere. See Rambam Hilchos Bechoros 6:4. We now turn to the words of the Mishnah. Meiser of animals applies both in the land of Israel and outside the land, and both when the temple exists and when the temple does not exist. And it applies only to unconsecrated animals, but it does not apply to consecrated animals, korbanos. And Meiser of animals applies to cattle, calves, and to flocks, sheep and goats, as stated in the verse. But Meiser cannot be taken from one for the other. Cattle and flocks are separate species that must be tithed separately. The owner cannot mix his newborn calves and sheep or goats in one pen and take Meiser from them together. And the Meiser obligation applies to sheep and goats, which are both included in the term flocks. And Meiser can be taken from one for the other. With regard to Meiser, sheep and goats are considered like one species. Therefore, the owner can mix the newborn sheep and goats in one pen and take Meiser from them together. And the Meiser obligation applies both to new animals born this year and old animals born last year. But Meiser cannot be taken from one for the other. The newborns of this year have to be tithed separately, and the newborns of last year have to be tithed separately. The Mishnah will now point out that its last two rulings, sheep and goats, can be tithed together, but not new and old, do not seem to fit with each other. If new and old cannot be tithed together, then sheep and goats should certainly not be able to be tithed together. The Mishnah will answer that for this reason there is a special verse that teaches that sheep and goats can be tithed together. Now, by rights, sheep and goats should not be able to be tithed together for the following reason. If, in the case of new and old animals of the same kind, new goats and old goats, or new sheep and old sheep, which are not kilayim with each other, the law is that Meiser cannot be taken from one for the other, as the Mishnah just taught. Then, in the case of sheep and goats, which are kilayim with each other, as it is forbidden to breed a sheep with a goat, does it not follow through the reasoning of Kal V'chomer that Meiser cannot be taken from one for the other? The law of kilayim, which allows old and young to be bred together, but not sheep and goats, shows that old and young are more similar to each other than sheep and goats. Therefore, if old and young, which are more similar, cannot be tithed together, is it not certain that sheep and goats, which are less similar, cannot be tithed together either? To teach otherwise, the Torah says, any Meiser of cattle and flocks, Vayikra 27, verse 32, by using one word, flocks, to refer to both sheep and goats, instead of mentioning sheep separately and goats separately, this implies that all flocks, both flocks of sheep and flocks of goats, are the same with regard to the laws of Meiser. Therefore, even though there would be a good reason to say that sheep and goats must be tithed separately, the verse teaches that they can be tithed together.